All right, YouTube. I don't usually talk about like pop culture bullshit movies and so forth, new songs, unless it's David Bowie or Bila Lugugal or Radio Werewolf or something like that. It's time for Ballbusters, which is the proper name of the new so-called Ghostbusters movie. That isn't really anything more than a rip-off of the original movie with a new cast that happens to be all snarky females. That's essentially what it boils down to. Now, I know that it's unpopular to say this, unless you're like dedicated alt-right or something, but I'm going to have to agree with them on this. This is an insanity applied to movies. But you see it in... one thing I will say here. People are trying to boil it down just to like, oh, third wave feminism, Hollywood pushing, feminist agenda. I don't boil it down to that. I boil it down to them having really bad ideas. And this is the mother of all bad ideas. Ghostbusters is a massive movie franchise. People begged for years for a sequel, and they never really got it, and then they deliver this piece of crap, and that's exactly what it is. I'm not going to see it. I saw the trailer. I thought it was hilariously bad. Like, even the trailer, when the trailer is poorly made and doesn't really showcase the movie as being interesting, that's when you know there's going to be a fucking problem. Because a lot of times, the trailer usually amalgamates some of the more exciting, sort of nail-biting elements of a movie. If it's any permutation of, like, action, sci-fi, anything like that, then what you get are the most action-packed sort of moments in the movie rolled up into a couple minutes long sort of reel, and that's really what you get. The very rudiments, it's sort of the selling point of the movie. So if the trailer is bad, most of the movie is going to be a snooze fest. And that's exactly what this is going to be. What they should have done, I concur with the angry video game nerd on this particular topic. When I say it would have been better to take some of the original cast, not even necessarily all of them, but at least like one or two people, have them stand in as like, have a backstory. Oh yeah, the other Ghostbusters died, and I'm too old, I can't do this anymore. Here, I'm going to mentor this new group of people. And then it would have been fine. It would have been just fine if they had done that. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm not even like a Ghostbusters nerd. I remember like the cartoon from when I was a kid. That was fun to watch. I remember when it was bigger than it is now. I remember I saw the original movie. I thought the Marshmallow Man was fucking hilarious. I thought the movie was very funny. It's sort of in a cliched sense, but not in a bad sense. A good cliched sense, as in, yeah, it was just a one-liner after one-liner with a lot of really goofy shit in it that was funny to watch. But here you have, finally, they have like fully modern computer animation that should go really well with a movie like Ghostbusters. Not like a zombie flick where they sort of computer it up, and it's like the new Evil Dead with sort of the computerized style of animation and all the modern effects in filming it. And it didn't really work well. It was a good movie, but it was nothing compared to the original Evil Dead. This is sort of the opposite. This is a movie that would have really benefited from new animation, and yet they don't have any of the original cast, and it's essentially, from what I see, it's just going to be literally the first movie all over again with a totally different cast. That's not really a sequel in my book. That's just not the way that it works. And I thought it was very funny how they try to typecast the Black Ghostbuster as being the one that's not a scientist and sort of a uncouth sort of Mama Jamaica character or something like that. And then people were saying that's racist. Well, maybe a little bit racially charged there. It is kind of funny because the three white Ghostbusters are all like, rocket scientist sort of people. But I'm not going to boil it down to feminism. Yes, there are certainly people in Hollywood that are trying to make traditionally male characters female, make traditionally white characters black, and things such as that. It's like that, I can't remember the movie, but there was one with an Asian protagonist, and now she's white, and they have a big fuss about that too. I think that they should stay within the ethnic and gender boundaries of the traditional cast. That is, if there's a movie with, 99% of the cast is black, you wouldn't cast a bunch of them as like white and Mexican doing a remake. It just doesn't make any sense. You got an Asian character that becomes white, you've got a white character that becomes black, and what it does is it really destroys the franchise when you think about it. People get used to the way a character looks and acts, then they're totally different. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? But the big point about Ghostbusters is meant to be funny, and ultimately, the movie's trailer, it doesn't look like it's going to be funny, and that's the main problem. People are going to vote with their wallets, by the way. A lot of people, the sort of dedicated Ghostbusters fan base, I have to imagine like at least half of them won't bother to see the video. They might steal it online months later, but they're not going to go to the theaters and see it. I think it's going to be a massive box office bomb. It might get a little bit of a boost from the I'm Angry and Female crowd, but that's probably about it. And I imagine that they're too busy writing around on Tumblr. So yeah, it's probably going to be a wash. I'm not going to see it. I'm not going to justify it. And also, I don't care if people say that I'm like sexist for saying this. It would be no different than if they remade Roots with an all-white cast, honestly. It would be exactly the fucking same concept. It just doesn't make sense. You've got people, they're used to the original cast, and you don't even include any of them. Just give them one token person, anybody from the original cast, in a role as their older self, sort of mentoring a new generation of Ghostbusters, and it would have been fine. It would have been perfect. You could also script a whole lot of funny jokes, old person jokes into it. It would have been great. It probably would have at least been a B effort. This one's just an F for no effort, essentially. It's Hollywood doing what it's been doing lately, which is it rehashes an old and great idea and makes it 10 times crappier, removes the funniness from a comedy, removes the spookiness from a horror film, removes all the really good action and nail-biting moments from an action movie, and what you're left with is just a pile of crap. That's what Hollywood has been doing now for years. There's no end in sight because they've realized it's cheaper to do that. It's cheaper to rip off an old work and just rewrite the one-liners and basically keep the story the same. I'll point this out. New Star Wars movie. Now, I watched it and I like it. I do like the new Star Wars was pretty good. I wouldn't rate it as original trilogy good, but I would rate it at least at like episode 1. Pretty good, novel, even though, again, it basically rips off the first Star Wars movie, episode 4. It essentially rips it off. It's just a passing of the torch, but the reason why it worked, it has Han Solo in it. It has Princess Leia in it. It has Chewbacca in it. It has some of the characters from the original movies. And instead of just recycling literally everything, you've got the new effects, but you do have an effective passing of the torch. Yeah, it annoys me a little bit, the similarities. You've even got the sort of character that's like, oh, I want to be as powerful as Darth Vader was. And I'm not a huge Star Wars nerd. I do like the original trilogy. I will say this: I liked Star Wars Episode 2. Everyone thought, oh, this one's crappy. It's just about like this fucking retarded romance with Padme. I thought it was actually pretty entertaining to watch. Ultimately, yeah, there were a few flaws with it, but it was definitely worth watching. It doesn't deserve the low ratings that it gets, but the new Ghostbusters, it will. It absolutely will. It's going to be, oh man, I don't want to watch it because it's going to be a travesty, even though I'm not completely hooked on the original Ghostbusters and I'm not some super fan. I don't walk around in a Ghostbuster shirt or anything like that. Even though that may not be the case, it's still an enjoyable movie and I don't want to see the franchise utterly debilitated. People begged for years and years for the sequel, and now for years and years they're going to beg them not to continue the line of the sequel that they made. That's how bad I think it's going to be. Not because of the all-female cast, but because there's none of the original cast there. And it does seem a little bit like Ballbusters when you really think about it, because here you've got the sort of four... You've got the tough black female, and then you've got the 3 genius white females, and they don't need no man. All they want to do is catch some ghosts. It's going to be a little bit preachy, I have to imagine. It's just not my cup of tea. I'm not going to watch it. That's about all. Peace out.